pretty major change. As far as good drivers, a similar scenario where they were about $1,190 a year and Geico was $1,384 for the year. So they are a little bit cheaper in that area. State Farm was $1,403, and then Progressive for some reason was way out of whack at $2,075 based on the $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident, and $100,000 for property damage coverage limits. That's assuming that you do comprehensive. I've been a customer of USA for about 30 years. In the past, I've found them to be courteous, helpful, and unfortunately, I recently submitted a claim of hail damage to my car, and I've been immensely disappointed by the experience with them this time. These helpful customer service seem to have vanished. Getting the status of the claim has become arduous ordeal. Arduous and arduous? Okay, you'll have to let me know what that means. I'll just say an ordeal. Trying to reach a live person is going to get an additional 15 to 20% off just for keeping it on a military base where it's likely more safe than if you didn't keep it there. Now, the caveat to that I forgot to mention is if you're on deployment, so that's another piece to it. They offer a family discount, so if you have children, they're trying to appease that piece of it because there are a lot of younger drivers starting to pop up. The length of the membership that you've had with them, and then you get an installment discount. So if you're paying in full versus paying monthly, you don't claim goes the way that you want. Keep in mind, that's not a fit for everybody. Some people have had some problems. Reviews on Wallet Hub gave them 3.0 out of 5. NAIC gave them a decent rating. Better Business Bureau gave them a B+, which is not good. That tells you that there's complaints, which is common. Better Business Bureau is a normal spot for people. And then the AM Best, which is more the stability of the company, gave them an A++, which is like the top. So they're stable. They've got money. It's a matter of not whether they have money. It's whether they're willing to pay the claims with the money. So an older one that popped up first, pay an extra fee, which most companies charge $3 to $5 every month for that additional piece. Before we dive into the reviews, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. Is you should watch one of my biggest comparisons. I actually did USAA versus Geico. If you want to learn more about that, I'll link the video here. But let's dive into a couple other things that they offer. They do dental insurance, they do farms and ranches, life insurance, major medical insurance, small business, travel, vision. There's a whole bunch of stuff storage. So if you're on a military base, is the biggest key to it, and you store it there, they're going to give you a very large discount for that. Now, part of the discount that they say is not really a discount. So a chunk of it, you're going to see about a 30% decrease in general, because when you put a car in storage, you're going to take that liability portion off. You're not driving it, so you shouldn't be liable for anything. And so that's going to knock about 30 to 40% off on its own, and then you're going to end not in Alabama. So you have to determine what area that these reviews are coming from, because there are different levels of service. Essentially, there's nothing super exciting about them as far as the company. There's no special programs or additional coverage that I've seen that makes them shine over the rest, apart from certain discounts that you get for being a military person or having your car on a military base. You get a discount for that. If you have young drivers, they're going to also give you discount down quite a bit. Lastly, these companies are not always the best fit in a lot of states, and they're great companies, but there's a lot of different options for different people. So as we talk about those, I'll put in the description below if you're interested in getting a quote with multiple companies. We work with 17 different companies, and I've got another one down there that works with 30 companies. So whether you prefer to have an app to do and never talk to somebody, or you'd like to talk to somebody live and get advice, both of those options are below. So diving in, USAA was founded in the USAA 890 out of 1,000. As far as customer satisfaction, so we're including claims, things like that, where Geico has gotten an 871 score, a little bit lower, but to be honest with you, the comparison there is pretty null. It just means that Geico may have had a little bit more claims or might not have taken that extra step where USAA has, so I wouldn't necessarily put that out the door. But when you look at the cost of the annual price, the average for USAA that are younger drivers, they'll have that for people that are in the house. Good student discount, if you get an average of a B or better, you're going to get a discount for that as well. New vehicle discount, so you're going to get a little bit newer vehicle, you're going to get a cheaper price, along with if you have more cars, you're going to have a multi-car discount, which everybody does. Annual mileage discount, so if you drive low miles, vehicle storage, and this is the unique one, where you can save up to 60% on the vehicle when it's in 3 years, 5 years. Whenever you don't have claims, no tickets, no accidents, you're a clean driver, you're going to get a discount the longer you go. They offer a defensive driving discount, which you can honestly throw that away, because if you're not willing to take a course, it doesn't save you much money. Most of the time it's not worth it unless you get a ticket, because then that helps overcome not only the points with the state, but also helps you get a little bit of a discount to overcome that big rate increase from the ticket. They do a driver's training discount for those through hoops to get my settlement. Never had this insurance, never will. Very upset on how they treat people. Extremely frustrated with the company, point where I'm canceling all services with them. 35 years, was a victim of fraud in November 2020, and now in June of 2021, it's still not removed fraud. So there's a lot of problems where USAA isn't keeping their promise as far as doing the extra steps, which they used to. That's the crazy part. Their rates have been going up a little bit. Their claims service has gone. I'll give my opinion of them here in just a moment, and I'll tell you which one I would go with and give you those options. But let's take a look at what Bankrate says about them. I've got them pulled up here, and they said overall the Bankrate score of them is almost identical. The Geico insurance got 4.6, and the Bankrate score for USAA got 4.7, so pretty well the same. And they're both A++ rated, which is the top that you can get. So the AM Best rating has given them the most. JD Power has given a gargantuan chore. And the person I finally talked to was rude, argumentative, excuse-ridden. Such a disappointment for the company, has been touted as one of the best. And there's a lot of these. They go on because you gotta imagine every 5 people, you're getting 2 to 3 that are saying negative. One's the worst experience I've ever had, and these are the ones that are in order. I'm not sorting these in any specific order. Totaled my car, didn't offer what it was worth. They made me question agents about this. It's always a different story. So they don't really know or aren't trained to explain your insurance rate went up because your insurance score changed, or the vehicle changed, or we had a rate increase. That's something that all agents should know, that they can explain. It's not always the best answer. You don't always love it. I don't always love to say it, but it's the truth. And at least you know, and you can make the best decision for you. This was a really good one. Another complaint, April 26th of 2021. Good credit is going to be with USAA, not including the factors of claims and tickets and what profile that you have. Age is the next factor that's going to make a big difference. If you're younger age, you're probably going to lean away from the USAA, even though you have a family and it might be mom, dad, and kids and all of that. Geico's going to lean towards that because anyone under 25 is instantly considered high risk. Just the number of claims as you're learning to drive is going to play a pretty big piece. $100 difference across the board. Let's say in the next annual cost of insurance is $1,200 versus $1,300 or vice versa. Personally, I would even pay a little bit more to go with USAA. Their track record is amazing. They are kind of hidden in the insurance world as far as not being high rated, because there's always an asterisk with them because they don't allow just anybody in. You have to be part of that military group, and because of that, your AM Best and your JD Power and your websites that are ranking as competitive. I would say for those of you that are watching this, you may want to think a little bit more towards Progressive being in that second to third slot, because I think that they are also impactful. And the reviews are a little bit higher as far as the turnaround on claims, which we're going to dive into in just a moment. So essentially, leaning over at my Wallet Hub, they're saying if you're 18 years old, you're going to pay about $130 a month. 21 years old, you're going to pay about $77 a month for just basic coverage. For that as well, because they want to keep the military family together. On top of, they donate to military programs. So for those that are in need, they're also helping back to the community. And if you're like any military personnel, I commend you for being part of that, because I don't think I'm good enough or strong enough to join that part. I just don't have the mental strength to do something like that. So you, by far, are on my pedestal, full coverage with the $500 deductible. So these numbers, if you're doing PLPD, just liability only, you're going to pay a little bit less of a cost. Keep in mind, it's not exact because each state's different, and it's not necessarily always even offered with some companies. Geico does restrict some of the people allowing them to do quotes, Like in my state, in Michigan, it's almost impossible to get insurance with them. They make it difficult on purpose. Overall, what is the one to go with? Personal opinion, if you are a fit for either, if it's about 100, you should watch it either way, but it was lacking. And the biggest complaint was it was just the data wasn't there, the tech piece wasn't there. And so a lot of people were frustrated with the system that they were trying to get a discount on. Some people called it a bait and switch, and it just didn't give them the discount that it should have. That also leads us into the discounts, because that's a very powerful piece. And USAA has some unique ones that I think are really good, that if you're in the military, you're going to like this. They have the safe driver discount, so that's normal, 2 years, 3. But you're going to notice that USAA, where they were uber competitive in the past, it's not so much anymore. When you look at their pricing based on the national average, they're about $1,111 per year, compared to other companies like Geico, who are $1,221. So about $100 difference between that major company. But when you're younger, that Geico is going to be the better fit in most cases. State Farm came in at about $1,400-ish, was $384 versus the cost of $582 for Geico. That's the average annual cost. And that's more of a minimum coverage. If you're looking for full coverage, you're looking about $1,200, just over $1,200 versus just over $1,500. So there's about a $300 gap between the two as far as the scenarios that they used in this case. The biggest thing that plays a factor is going to be your insurance score or credit score. When you're looking at the insurance score, USAA values that a little bit more than Geico, because once again, don't put them in the #1 slot where they really deserve to be, mainly because the way that they handle claims far exceed most companies. Where Geico is really good and they're above average with claims, they're just not quite at that level where the USAA is going to sit. And that's personally where I would like to be. I want to make sure if I have a claim, if something happens, they're going to pay it. Sometimes if there's a little bit extra, they're willing to out-pocket a few expenses, just to make sure that you're satisfied. But they're lacking in the claims department. And they're having some struggles with that right now, along with some of the tech pieces, which we will also cover in this video. More so going to the asterisk, that's the only reason that they're not ranked #1 in a lot of the rankings. But the problem is a lot of these rankings are older data. And so when you're looking at the today, you should really look at the reviews that people are more recently leaving and if they're in your area. Because USAA might be amazing in Texas, even though now we're talking about whether Geico's even a fit for you, and now we're looking at more of a Progressive or a State Farm or somebody else. That's where we recommend that you subscribe to the channel so you get more updates on who's going to be the best fit for those scenarios. So clean driving record, you're looking at USAA at about $1,200 versus about $1,400. So it's a little slight difference there. And then when you get a speeding ticket, it is about the same difference where they're okay. Geico is funny. That was the name of Geico. And they initially did similar to what USAA did, and they only let people that were part of the government or an employee of it, then they would only let them in. Now, since a long time ago, like almost right away, they've opened up the doors to anybody, and they've become very competitive, especially for the younger generation. Usually when you're 25 or younger, you're going to pay more for the cost of insurance, but with Geico, they plan to have more of a lower rate for that type of person. So the risk either way, but I think USAA may not necessarily be a fit for a handful of people that are joining them. Now, the article that I started reading was on Forbes, and I leaned over to Wallet Hub for a few other pieces, as well as the Advisor and a couple different websites to get some comparisons and some feedback so we could at least show you guys just some different opinions versus just the one company that ran one specific scenario. And in this article, they actually gave a really favorable ranking for them. They've determined is lower across the board, which ultimately gives you a better deal. For those that are 25 or older, not as great, but still great rates. And so they've really come out and said, in general, we want to be able to insure just about anyone in any situation, unless you have a ticket or an accident, and then we get a little bit crazy with you. In those cases, you're going to click the links below and you're going to shop around and try to find something that's a better fit for your profile, as we talk about on this channel. So I'm going to give you, and we had Progressive coming in a little bit higher at $1,800. Once again, depending on the state that you're in, Progressive is massively growing in their tech trended and they're customer focused. They're 3 steps ahead of where you're thinking you want to be in the future, and they're preparing for that. USAA is playing catch up on the tech trends. So they're going to find a rough spot in a few years where they're not going to be able to keep up unless they make a... So founded in 1922, USAA started military only, and they've stuck with that. I believe there was like 25 military personnel that were insuring each other's vehicles for risk, and that grew into multiple lines of products. We're going to go over a list of some of the things that USAA does at the end, and you're going to see just how much information or how many products that USAA offers. Mostly people are looking at the auto, so we're going to dive into that the most as far as getting the data. In 1922, it has over 13 million members. That's a huge amount, especially since a lot of people don't understand that USAA is only a military company. So you have to be some part of the government or military or have a family member that's part of that in order to just get in the door. That's one of the ways that they keep the rates low, is because they're kind of an organization or a club or a group membership, that they weed out some of the people they don't want in the company, which ultimately, again, we said Geico's kind of the overall better fit and the overall open door policy, so they're not going to heavily hit someone with a lower insurance score. And the numbers show it. USAA is about $2,200, almost $2,300 a year if you have poor credit, where Geico is about $2,000, not quite, about $1,970 is the cost for Geico. So there's a pretty big gap. It reverses where USA used to be $300 cheaper, but now poor credit, Geico wins. If you get average, which is probably in the details, they're ranked really high over almost every company, but they don't show up in the rankings. And the main reason is the biggest con that USAA has towards their group is that they don't let anybody join. You have to be part of the military. You have to be son or daughter of the military, parent of the military, some sort of family blood-related relative that can get you in the door with USAA. I've got some family members with them, and they've been happy for the most part, going to be about $1,700 versus $1,500. So you're still seeing that $200-ish gap between them. And the DUIs and convictions, now Geico freaks out because that's just out of their wheelhouse. They're $3,000 versus $2,100. Most of this data was taken on if you're doing the standard liability, which in today's age, or at the time of this video, the normal is $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident. Property damage is $50,000. Uninsured motorists typically the same, and then you have to get caught with it. USAA doesn't hit you as hard, neither does Geico. They're about $1,268 versus $1,390, which is Geico. State Farm is $1,551, and then Progressive is $2,279. I challenge the article that they're talking about this. I don't love Progressive. They're not my favorite company, although they are a powerful company. I think these numbers are a little bit off based on the location. So my guess is this is in a state, probably Texas, that they aren't. So age 30 is $1,300 versus $1,500-ish. I'm rounding these off. And then age 40 is going to be $1,225, $1,405. Notice how they're just like the credit, they're flipping now. And then age 60 is $1,073 versus $1,326. Driving record is no different. We're going to see the same flip-flop happen. Have a good driving history, you're going to be best fit for USAA, and as it starts to creep out, it's going to go more towards Geico. I'm going to read you a couple reviews here that some people have said, and these are the first things that popped up. I went into Wallet Hub because I wanted to see why they were ranking them so much lower. On average, they're like a 4-star, 3.5 to 4-star, which is pretty good out of 5. And Wallet Hub was teetering just below that 3 mark, and they had 2,880 reviews. So I jumped in there just to see, and they kind of give some background. JD Power gave them a 4.5 out of 5, so they loved them. There's a video soon, so don't forget to subscribe and turn that bell icon on for that video. The other ones are Geico came in at $2,490, and then Progressive came in at $3,070. So in these cases, it looks like Progressive is losing in just about every scenario until we get into the drivers with DUIs. State Farm came in the most competitive, USAA came in second, Progressive came in third, and then Geico came in fourth. Same scenario with drivers without insurance. If you don't currently have insurance, it lowers the risk and lowers the rates that you're going to pay. Now, comparing that to Geico, who was built and founded in 1936, They have 28 million vehicles that they insure across the tons of states that they do. They're probably the larger footprint and average overall, have the most open door policy where just about anyone can go in there. Now, it's funny because USAA is the government and the military and all of that, where Geico, when you look at the name of it, it's Geico Insurance. So it's Government Employee Insurance Company and collision, and most of these guys do $1,000 deductibles on their quotes, even though they don't say it in this article. If you get a speeding ticket, USAA loses a little bit of their grip here. They do not love that fact. They're at $1,676 a year compared to State Farm, who's now at $1,713. So you're only about a $40 difference between the two, and State Farm does offer a handful of pieces where USAA isn't competing. I'm actually working on a State Farm versus you, and then your 45-year-old is going to pay about $53 a month. Once you get a speeding ticket, if you're 45-year-old, you're going to go about $58, so not a big difference. If you're 45 with a DUI, you're $153. If you're 55, you're $52 a month, and you're 65 or older, you're $53 a month. So essentially, there's some pretty good rates. They also offer a new program that they started using, which is called their Safe Pilot Insurance Program, and I'm going to link the video up here where I did a full review on them. I'll kind of cheat and tell you some answers here. Most people, I would say an average credit score is below 640 or between that 600 to 650 range, and now you're looking at $1,277 for USAA, $1,505 for Geico. So it kind of flips the cost there, where the average credit plays a big factor. We'll skip right into the excellent. So if you have a 700 plus score in insurance, you're going to be looking at about $1,030 with USAA, $1,312, and that's where it starts to flip. So poor credit is going to be with Geico that they do. Their app has gotten decent ratings, so they'll let you pay the bill on the app. They have these deposits that you can do. You can go to local ATMs. They have ID cards that you can get access insurance right on the app as well, and you can report claims on there. Unfortunately, that's the part where they're losing. So great company, great prices in a lot of states, not all of them, but they are really struggling with their more recent claims that are happening. This was October of 2020. Tree fell on their house. Their rain is pouring in, but they can't get a hold of somebody on the weekend. So either it's a miscommunication on getting the phone number to call, or they're just closed on the weekend. I'd love to know if you guys know that answer, and leave that in the description below. Karen in November said, do not trust USAA, worst customer experience. I've been with this company for a couple years. Continue to see my policy rates going up monthly, which is what I'm also hearing. And when I question it, and USAA just knows that that's not the risk they're looking for. You're not the profile fit in those scenarios. Now, they might be looking for mom, dad with kids, and that's fine, but if you're younger, in general, you're going to lean towards Geico. I'll just quickly rant out the numbers in case you guys are curious. So 16 years old, $2,200-ish versus $1,900. 18 is $3,300-ish versus $3,700-ish. Age 25 is 15 versus 17, and then we start to flip-flop.